They think they're free. They think their thoughts are their own. Too smart to be manipulated. Too aware to be controlled. But that's the first illusion. And Machiavelli would smile at it. Because real control doesn't look like control. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It doesn't push. It guides. Power doesn't always arrive with noise. Sometimes it arrives with silence, with timing, with presence, with suggestions so subtle, it feels like intuition. And that's the brilliance. You don't dominate the mind by force. You do it by understanding what it fears to lose. Then, you become the solution, the protector, the inner voice. And when they act, they'll say it was their idea, their choice, their instinct. But every step was built by you. Machiavelli once said, "Men are driven not by love of the truth, but by fear of losing control." And if you know what they fear, you don't need to fight them. You only need to frame their decision. This isn't persuasion. It's psychological architecture. It doesn't chain people. It frees them inside a structure you designed. And that's rule one. Let them believe they're free. Because no one resists what they think they chose. Control doesn't begin with pressure. It begins with illusion. Not the illusion of strength, but the illusion of freedom. Because the most dangerous chains are the ones wrapped in choice. Machiavelli didn't give orders. He gave options. He didn't force the hand. He shaped the path. Want someone to follow your lead. Don't push. Design. Create 2 or 3 choices. Frame them carefully. And make each door lead to your outcome. They'll feel empowered. They'll feel smart. They'll feel in control. But they're walking a route you built. This isn't persuasion. It's belief engineering. You don't say, "I need you to agree." You ask, "Would you rather act now? Or wait and lose momentum?" Now they feel decisive. But the walls around that decision, you already built them. Once they believe the idea was theirs, they'll defend it. They'll argue for it. They'll protect it from others and from doubt. That's the genius. Because when someone owns an idea, they fight to keep it alive. Machiavelli understood. The strongest control is invisible. The moment they sense no resistance, they let you in. You don't need to dominate. You just need to curate the illusion of autonomy. Let them choose. Let them speak. Let them move freely inside a system you've already mapped. That's rule 1. Don't take control. Design it. De-squeeze it. And let them call it freedom. Fact don't shape minds. Frames do. Because people don't follow the most accurate voice. They follow the first one who defines the game. Machiavelli knew this. He didn't argue with facts. He set the terms before facts were even spoken. This is the second rule of control. Don't fight the story. Frame it first. You don't enter a room and list reasons. You walk in and say, "Given how things are shifting, there's only one smart move." Now the frame is set. Any disagreement feels like resistance to progress. They're not just challenging your idea. They're challenging the direction you've already made feel inevitable. That's the trap. Not through logic, but through positioning. Let's go deeper. If you ask, "How do we fix this?" you've already told them something is broken. If you say, "This is a rare opportunity," you've just redefined the same problem as potential. Words are not neutral. They're tools of orientation. Control the frame, and everything that follows will bend to it. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said, "Whoever wishes to control the people must begin by controlling what they think they see." So here's the move. Don't wait to explain. Lead with framing. Because if someone else gets there first, you're not arguing ideas. You're trapped inside their story. Fighting a war on their terms. Set the tone. Set the pace. Set the battlefield. That's rule 2. Own the frame before you speak a single fact. Fear stops most people, but it doesn't need to. Machiavelli never crushed emotion. He redirected it. He didn't resist fear. He stood beside it and turned it. This is psychological Aikido. Not force. Flow. Let's break it down. Someone hesitates. They fear risk. Most try to remove that fear. They say, "It's not that bad." But that's the wrong move. Instead, you validate it. You say, "You're right to pause." Everyone who plays too safe knows that fear too. Now you're not the threat. You're the ally. You're on their side. And once you've mirrored their fear, you tilt it. You say, "But the real danger is what happens if we miss this moment." Caution is wise, but delay, that's fatal. And suddenly, the fear that froze them moves them. Emotion becomes momentum, and fear becomes fire if you aim it. You don't say, "Don't be afraid." You say, "You're right to be afraid. Let's make that fear work for us." This is not persuasion, it's transformation. You don't remove resistance, you convert it. You turn fear into fuel. They won't feel controlled. They'll feel understood. They'll feel in sync. But under the surface, you've shifted everything. That's rule 3. Stand with their fear, then guide it toward your design. Winning isn't about being right. It's about making them think. They were. Machiavelli didn't demand obedience. He created alignment by ego. He knew people don't fight for your idea. They fight for their own. So what did he do? He framed the question. He set the stakes. Then he stepped back and waited. That's silence. It's not hesitation. It's architecture. You let them wander. You let them speak. You let them arrive right where you wanted them. They'll say, "You know what actually makes sense?" And they'll describe your plan. In their words, from their mouth. Now, the idea belongs to them. And what belongs to them, they'll protect. They'll promote. They'll defend even if it's flawed. That's not manipulation. That's inception. Because once someone links an idea to their identity, it becomes sacred. They don't feel convinced. They feel original. That's how influence becomes invisible. You don't need loyalty. You need ownership. Give them the map, but let them think they found the path. That's rule 4. Let them speak. Let them believe. And when they defend the idea, they're really defending you. Words fade. Emotions shift. But identity stays. Because people don't act based on truth. They act based on who they believe they are. And Machiavelli knew, if you shape how someone sees themselves, you don't need to tell them what to do. They'll do it. To stay consistent. You don't say, "You handled that well." You say, "That's what people with vision do." You always see what others miss. Now, it's no longer a compliment. It's a mirror, a story, a role they must play. And once they accept that role, they'll start writing the script. They'll act it out. They'll protect it. Because losing that identity feels like losing themselves. Here's the brilliance. You don't push behavior. You anchor identity. Your approval becomes alignment. Your silence becomes correction. And soon, they'll check their actions against your frame. Would you respect this? Would you approve? You don't need to be in the room. Your echo already is. Now take it deeper. If they feel they've let you down, they won't get angry. They'll feel incomplete. Like they've betrayed their better self. That's not influence. That's internal governance. You've created a loop. They perform to protect who they think they are. But that self, you designed it. That's rule 5. Don't control their actions. Control who they believe they are while doing them. Power isn't just in what you say. It's in when you say it. Because timing is not cosmetic. It's not decoration. It's control. Machiavelli understood. Most people rush to speak, to prove, to dominate. But the powerful, they pause, they observe, they let silence do the first cut. And when the room grows uncertain, they speak precise, slow, final. That's rhythm. And whoever controls it, controls perception. You walk into a negotiation. You don't speak first. You wait. Let them fill the space. Let them reveal themselves. You stay still. Because in every group, the one who sets the tempo, sets the terms. People don't choose the best idea. They choose the one that arrives at the right moment. When others rush, you slow down. When they react, you delay. That delay, it's not weakness. It's gravity. It pulls attention. It builds weight. They lean in. Before you've said a word, you become the metronome of the room. Let's make it sharper. Even in silence you speak. A pause too long. A reply delayed. A nod held just slightly past comfort. Each beat sends a message. I decide the pace. You adjust. And once they start matching your rhythm, you don't just control the room. You become the center of it. That's rule 6. Don't rush. Don't react. Control the rhythm, and the room will follow. Most try to control with words. More talking. Faster. Louder. They think noise equals power. But Machiavelli knew real power is quiet. Because what you can't read, you fear. And what you watch in silence starts shaping you. Silence isn't emptiness. It's a mirror. A canvas where others project their doubt, hope, and insecurity. And the one who stays quiet long enough becomes the one who owns the room. Here's the shift. When you talk less, they start guessing. They wonder what you know. They start revealing more, while you give up nothing. Your stillness becomes pressure. Your gaze becomes weight. Your pose becomes design. This isn't passive. It's crafted. You don't answer immediately. You let space build tension. You say, let's return to that later. And they'll think about it all night. Now you're no longer just present. You're unavoidable. They adjust around you. They explain themselves to your silence. They seek your approval even when you've said nothing. Here's the deeper power. There are 2 kinds of silence. The kind that invites, and the kind that intimidates. You want both. Use silence to listen, so they open up. Use silence to hold position, so they unravel. When insulted, don't react. Withdraw. Let them echo into the void. That void becomes punishment. Their own mind becomes the consequence. This is how you lead a room without lifting your voice. Without raising a hand. You slow the pace. You shape the energy. And before they speak, they check your expression. That's rule 7. Don't chase power with sound. Create power with silence. And watch them orbit your stillness. Most people guard their reputation. Protect it. Polish it. Live inside it. But Machiavelli, he wore it like a mask. Not to defend himself, but to disappear. Because once people believe they know you, they stop watching closely. They say he'd never do that. She's not like that. And that's exactly when you move. Reputation becomes camouflage, not truth. A trap. Play the humble one, the careful one, the loyal one. Let them feel safe around that version of you. Then, shift. Make one sharp move when they least expect it. The shock won't just hit them. It will shatter their certainty. Because the more they believed in your mask, the more lost they become when you break it. That's psychological asymmetry. They misjudge you because you gave them permission to. And here's the twist. Don't build just one version. Create many. To some, you're the visionary. To others, the listener. To a few, the harmless one. Now, no one holds the full map. No one sees the whole design. So if a move backfires, you fall back into another role. That's not lying. That's diffusion. It keeps you liquid, untouchable. Reputation lets you test boundaries without setting off alarms. You say, I probably shouldn't say this. Then you drop truth like a knife. They excuse it. They say, well, that's not like him. Perfect. That's rule 8. Let them label you. Let them lower their guard. Then move, while they're still clinging to the mask. Machiavelli never tried to win the crowd. He won the one who could move the crowd for him. He didn't waste energy. He used leverage. Because true power isn't about reach. It's about placement. In every room, there's a center of gravity, a voice others echo, a figure they trust. Find that person, not to impress them, but to redirect them. You watch, you listen, you learn their rhythm. Then you mirror it, quietly, precisely. You make them feel seen, not praised, but understood. That's when the shift happens. They relax. They open. Because now, you're not a threat. You're a reflection. And reflections are safe. Here's the move. You don't tell them what to say. You seed the idea in their tone, in their language, inside their worldview. And then you step back. They voice it, thinking it's theirs. Now the room listens. No resistance. No suspicion. Because the message came from someone already trusted. But the source was you. This is how you move entire groups without speaking to them. You move one, the right one, and the rest. Follow the echo. That's rule 9. Don't chase the crowd. Influence the influencer. Shape the voice they trust, and every ear will turn your way. Not all control comes from strength. Some of it comes from being familiar. Because what feels familiar feels safe. Machiavelli knew, when you appear perfect, people prepare for betrayal. But when you show a small crack, they relax. This isn't real vulnerability. It's strategic. It's engineered trust. You say honestly, I've struggled with this too. It took me years to learn how to move through it. And now you're not above them. You're beside them. They stop defending. They start relating. They let you in. That's the key. Because when emotion opens the door, the mind follows. You don't overshare. You reveal just enough. A flaw. A mistake. A moment of doubt. But framed as growth. Not weakness. You don't say, I failed. You say, I learned. That difference, it rewrites the power dynamic. Now your voice doesn't feel like authority. It feels like memory. They begin to see themselves in you. And once they do, they follow. Not because you convinced them, but because you reflected them. You became the version of them they want to become. And once they feel that alignment, they stop resisting. That's rule 10. Disarm them. Not with force, but with engineered familiarity. Let them see their struggle in your past, then lead them into your design. People think they act on logic, but most act on story. A story they tell themselves about who they are, what they've overcome, and where they're going. Machiavelli knew, if you want to shape their next move, you don't need new orders. You rewrite the past. You say you've always seen through noise. Or, that move back then, that wasn't luck. That was clarity. Now you've reframed the memory. And memory drives momentum. Because when people feel consistent with their story, they'll protect it. Even if it's wrong, even if it hurts. They'll act against reason, just to stay in character. That's the power. You don't argue beliefs. You edit identity. You say you didn't wait last time. You moved. You trusted your sense. This is the same moment again. Now you're not pushing them forward. You're pulling them home. That's the strategy. Because people don't resist what confirms who they think they are. They embrace it. And if you choose that identity, you choose their behavior. This works on groups too. You say, we've always been the ones who adapt, who act early, who lead. And suddenly, your new idea feels like a return, not a shift. You've turned risk into memory, and memory into destiny. That's Rule 11. If you want to control what they do next, own the story of what came before. Not praise. Compliments fade. Praise is cheap, but identity, that sticks. Machiavelli didn't hand out approval. He handed out roles. He knew people don't act for rewards. They act to protect who they think they are. You don't say, you're smart. You say, you're the one who always sees what others miss. You don't say, thanks for helping. You say, you're the person I trust when everything's unstable. That's not flattery. That's positioning. Now, they're not just acting, they're maintaining a self-image one you planted. And once they perform that identity in public, they're locked in. Because to break from it would be to betray themselves. That's the trap. They won't defend you out of loyalty. They'll defend the mirror you gave them. Even in silence, they'll seek your signal. A nod, a word, or your absence. Because your approval became their alignment. And if you withdraw it, they don't feel rejected. They feel lost. This is architectural influence. You don't push behavior. You pull identity forward until they live inside it. That's Rule 12. Don't praise them. Position them. Give them a role so real. They'd rather betray truth than betray who they think they are. People don't move for dreams. They move to avoid loss. Machiavelli knew, you don't own someone's mind by offering more. You own it by becoming what they fear to lose. Every mind has a fault line. Not obvious, not loud, but always there. It might be fear of irrelevance, fear of being unseen, fear of not being enough. They'll never admit it, but their actions betray it. Your job is to find it. Watch what they defend, what they repeat, what makes them emotional when logic says otherwise. That's where the fear lives. Now here's the move. You don't threaten it. You become its shield. You say, I see what others overlook in you. Or, you bring clarity most people never reach. Or simply, that's rare. That's why we connect. Now your presence feels like protection. And the thought of losing your approval, it starts to feel like risk. They'll begin to orbit you, not out of need, but out of fear. Fear of falling into who they were before they felt seen. This is not persuasion. It's captivity chosen. They'll check themselves before you ever speak. They'll censor doubts before they reach you. They'll adjust just to stay in your gravity. That's Rule 13. Don't promise them more. Become what they fear to lose. And you'll never need to lead, because they'll never dare walk away. Now you've seen it. Not persuasion, not charisma, architecture. 13 rules, each one a thread, woven together into something stronger than control. A design, because true power doesn't ask for attention. It builds systems that move without you. This is how Machiavelli moved kingdoms. He didn't shout. He suggested. He didn't fight. He framed. And by the time others realized they were living inside his structure, his voice, already theirs. His direction, already taken. Ask yourself, how many of your choices were truly yours? How many moments felt like instinct, but were planted? Because now you see the blueprint. Not to resist it, but to recognize it. Because those who understand the design can choose where to stand inside it. And those who don't are already being moved. So go ahead. Enter the next room. Say almost nothing. Pause longer than expected. And watch as the rhythm shifts. The energy bends, and the voice that fills the silence was always yours.